Boom. Back at it again on a Wednesday. Um, Remember to take an ibuprofen today, so hopefully that helps things here at the gym. I just took one. I usually take two at night with my magnesium, and I don't know. It's just like I'll go several days, I'll go several weeks without taking ibuprofen at night, and then I'll just get a wild hair one day to take it. Mostly because I just have some like recurring pain in my shoulder, and also now my elbows. I started taking it again this time for my elbows. Sometimes my shoulder will flare up a little bit. It usually passes in a couple days, but it just it can. I have a feeling it wakes me up at night sometimes, and I toss and turn a lot, and I just try to avoid that because I've been sleeping kind of poorly. Although the last couple nights have been okay, but still, why would you ever? But I remember to take an ibuprofen just now with my pre-workout because I'm benching again today, and I meant to do it last week um, just to kind of help with the inflammation and the tenderness. Forgot to and regretted it. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to go in here and push past any pain that I feel because I took an ibuprofen today, because that's not what's going to happen. I'm still going to train intelligently, and I'm going to do my best to mitigate the pain so that I can get the most out of my training. I don't really know what to expect today. Everything's been okay. Like I said yesterday, it was pretty good up until we got to my back downs on squats, and then that's when the tenderness kind of started. Whoops, flip the curb again. My bad. Um, so today it was a lot better than last week though, and I think squats last week are kind of what set it off for me and made me not able to do my bench last Wednesday. So I think we're in a much better position this week all around, but still going to go in here and train intelligently. And I'm not going to be a dumbass and try to push my body to a point where it's going to make me regret it. So, having said that, I have 8 sets. 8 sets, count them, 8. Not one, not two, not even three. 8. 8 sets of 3 count pause bench today, 255. This is the last week I do sets of 2. Next week, 3 count pause will be 3 sets of 3 at 270. So I'll probably just do 275 because I'm lazy. So yeah, this is the last week of that, and it's high volume. Like I'm doing 8 sets of 2. Sheesh, just like on top of Larson and comp bench, like my God, and guillotine press, so it's like just a lot of elbow flexion. But yeah, not really a whole lot to say about that. I got on Reddit again this morning and got into the beginner fitness subreddit. I have it sorted by new on there just so that I can I try to answer people's questions. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of bad advice in that sub, and just in fitness subs in general, I feel like there's just a lot of people that, don't really know what they're talking about. Every now and then, there's a comment on one of those threads that's actually worth a shit, but I thought that I would try to at least bring my own voice into that, because I feel like I do know enough to give people, especially beginners, some just tips and advice on how to do things better or be better. And it's hard to explain it's hard to explain some of these things in such a way that beginners will understand, because a lot of people, when they talk to beginners, they tell them I want to lose weight, and your first instinct is, well, you need to be in a calorie deficit. Too easy, bro. It's easy to lose weight. And to you and me, anybody with any decent amount of experience in the gym knows that it's really not that difficult. It's a pretty simple concept, hard to be consistent with, but simple enough to outline and follow. But you tell that to a beginner, and they don't really know. Like, they don't know what you're saying, dude. Calorie deficit. What the fuck is that? And you have to explain it to them, and you have to dumb it down. Not dumb it down, but just sort of like, you can't speak to them the way you would speak to like me or someone who is, hey buddy, can you find your gas pedal, bro? Like, sorry. This is why I don't commute, man. This is why I stopped commuting, because I would go absolutely bonkers if I had to be out on the road with these fucking idiots every day of my life. Anyways, so you have to kind of tailor your response to and meet them where they're at on their level, right? And it can be difficult to do, but I try to give good advice to those people. And one of the questions that gets asked in there a lot is like, hey, I'm trying to lose weight and I'm in a calorie deficit, but I'm not losing weight. And that was one that I answered one this morning that was like that. And this person said that they started going to the gym recently. They've always been pretty active. And they started going to the gym recently and lifting weights 3 or 4 times a week. And they were in a deficit of like 1,700 calories or whatever. And they've been doing that for 2 months, and they hadn't seen any changes on the scale. And I pointed out, a lot of people in there, were saying, there were a lot of people in there that were giving you the typical response, like, well, then you're probably not in a calorie deficit. And that's true. And I gave up my response as well. And I outlined 3 things I thought that maybe could be going wrong there. The first one was exactly that, like, hey, you're not actually in a deficit because you're new to this. You said in your post that you only track your breakfast and then you don't like track anything else. And that to me tells me that you're probably not in a deficit. You're overeating without realizing it. And that's a common mistake for beginners, right? And that's okay. I mean, we've all been there. There's a learning curve too. There's a learning curve. And that's probably the most common reason, especially when you tell me that you're only tracking 1 meal a day. Yeah, you're probably overeating. That would be my best guess, is you're probably overeating. Most people are terrible at judging portion sizes, and even people that know what they're doing, right? Even me, like if you slapped a chicken breast in front of me and asked me to guess how many ounces that chicken breast was, I might be reasonably close. But if you do that enough over time, it adds up, right? So if I'm underestimating the size of the chicken breast enough over time, over enough period of time, I'm going to overeat by several hundred or 1,000 calories because I'm logging it, mentally, or actually logging it. I'm logging it as an 8-ounce chicken breast, but in reality, it's a 10-ounce chicken breast. And those 2 ounces of chicken breast, while chicken breast is pretty lean and low calorie, again, like I said, if you do it enough over time, you're going to end up overeating significantly. And most people don't understand that. And so that's why it's so important that you actually track your calories, that you actually have a log, and that you're not just ballparking it, because most people are terrible at judging portion sizes. What is a serving of green beans? It's 135 grams, half a cup. Could you eyeball that on a plate? Maybe. You know what I'm saying? Or how about a piece of cake? One serving size of this piece of cake is 1/8 of the cake. Can you eyeball a 1/8 slice of cake? Maybe a little easier to do that one, but still, you gotta eyeball it. And if you do that every single day for basically all of your meals, you're almost certain to overeat. So that's why it's so important that you keep a log and a food scale. And that's the number one thing I would recommend that a lot of people do is, invest in one of those things. Invest in a food scale. Invest in a fitness macro tracking app, whatever that is. A lot of them these days are, paid. You do have to pay for some of them, but some of them are still have free versions. And I would suggest investing in one. Find one you like, learn how to use it, and be consistent with it. Between that and a food scale and a healthy diet plan, you can't go wrong. So that's the first thing. The second thing was she, I just simply said, like, hey, if you have been in a calorie deficit for a while and like maybe you saw some progress initially, uh, there was some positive progress, the scale was moving at first, but then it stopped, you probably just need to adjust your calories again, because your body's adjusted to the deficit that you were once in, and now that's your new maintenance. So you need to adjust your calories down again. Alternatively, you could increase your physical activity, or you could do both. It's much easier to eat 150 calories less per day than it is to burn an extra 150 calories on the Stairmaster. So that's why I always suggest to cut calories before you try to be a hero and burn an extra 200 calories on the treadmill or outside for a walk. You are almost certainly not burning 200 calories on your afternoon walk around the block. Okay, I don't care what your Fitbit says, I don't care what your Apple Watch says, they're overestimating. So it's much easier to just cut calories. And finally, recomping, right? She mentioned that she had started going to the gym recently and lifting weights. And so part of that is just recomping, right? Newbie gains. There was a period in time earlier this year where I increased my calories significantly and the scale didn't move for like 3 weeks. I'm talking like a 15% surplus for several weeks and the scale didn't move. And that's a definite thing, right? Is recomping, especially if you're new to the gym. Recomping happens quick. And if you are in a true deficit and you've lifted weights for any period of time, or you've started to lift weights, it could be that your body is just adapting to that and that it's burning a little more fat and building a little more muscle. It's much more likely that recomp happens at maintenance or in a surplus. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it in a deficit, but just, a little more difficult. But excuse me. That was a third possibility. I think of those three, the most likely, based on her post, is that she's just not in a deficit. She thinks she is, and she's not. She's not tracking oil, butter, dressing. She's not tracking sauces or drinks, liquid calories. That's a very common thing, especially for beginners. I'm in a deficit. I'm not eating that much. And then, you sure about that? So that's the importance of tracking, is what I'm getting at. But tracking your food, very beneficial. Food Scale, like $10 on Amazon. I use the First Form app to track my food. I've just used it for a long time now. I don't remember. It's like $8 a month or something. And you can scan barcodes, you can quick add stuff, type stuff in. I've just used it for so long now. That's what I use. I just continue to use it. But there are a ton out there, and just pick one that you like and learn how to use it and stick to it. Food Scale, $10. Tracking app, some of them are free. Check. And then just get a good meal plan going and a good training program and give yourself 3 months. You'll see results. But anyways, this has gotten really long. And I'm going to go. I've been sitting in the gym parking lot for like 5 minutes now. So I'm going to go inside and I'm going to get to work on bench. Wish me luck. Hopefully my elbows don't flare up on me, but it's always a possibility. I'm going to pray that they don't. But we'll see. So yeah, I guess we'll see on the flip side of the gym session, because I'm probably not going to record in here. So later. Chat, we might be cooked. Yeah. Another failed day on bench. I got through one set, and even that one set was like pretty rough, pretty shaky. Everything, as per usual, everything felt fine up until we got into the top set. And as soon as I got, about halfway down with the bar on the top set, first set, my left elbow like completely gave out, and I usually I can control the bar decently enough on the descent, even if it's injured, even if my elbow's been injured like this, like I can still control the bar pretty good all the way down. Usually like right at the bottom is when my elbow gives out, which is kind of where like, I'm okay with it there because it falls like, a half an inch or an inch. I lose control for a very, very brief period of time. But this time, like today, it just like, I'm talking a good few inches, just kind of, I lost all control, was not able to control the descent at all in the bottom, like basically the whole bottom half of the rep. And so I could get it back up, no problem. I got it back up, but it was on the way down, just kind of stabilizing that muscle or that joint, I guess. I don't know. Something's bugging in there, and it's not fucking happy with me. So I did one set, decided I, again, wasn't going to push it. I backed the weight off because that was one of the things last week that I kind of was like kicking myself for was, I could have done like sets at a lighter weight, I felt like, because warm-ups all felt okay. And so it was like, why did I just stop? I should have done the sets that I could at a weight that I could, because why not? Like, if I can drop this down to 225 or to 185 and still complete the sets with minimal pain, I feel like that's a win, and I should have done that. So I attempted that this week, and I got through 2 sets at 225 and decided that was enough for me to just call it for the day because it didn't feel great. There was not as much pain on 225, but still was, it was still agitating my elbow quite a bit. The pain was at probably like a 5 or a 6. So it was enough for me to be like, yeah, let's just call it a day here. Let's not push the limits. We want to be able to bench again next week. So we just called it, man. Just called it straight up. Didn't really want to push it. Stopped benching right there. Went on to do cable rows. Elbow was still a little tender doing those because I still do all the accessories that I can. I'm not just calling it a day. Like, I want my body to adapt to this in a sense, and so I'm not just going to call it completely. Like, I stopped benching, sure, but I'm not going to just leave the gym. And so I went and did cable rows. Those, much like last week, those were also fairly tender on my elbow this week. But I still got through it. It's not nearly as bad doing those. So got through it still and was able to get through 3 sets of that. And then we went to do incline dumbbell press again. 3 sets of 11 at RPE7. I used 65-pound dumbbells and virtually no pain in my elbow. So I don't know. I got through all 3 sets. No issue. Pain was, maybe, 2 or 3, like a little bit maybe, but not much. So very odd there. I'm not really sure what the difference maker is there. If it's the fact that I'm using a dumbbell instead of a barbell. Is the incline? Is it my grip? I don't know. But made it through that. Skipped front raises. Was supposed to do cable front raises. Skipped those altogether because last week that was another annoyance in my elbow. I was not able to really those hurt doing cable front raises, put a lot of tension on my elbow, and so I decided that I was just going to skip those this week and not even mess with it based on last week. And then did hammer curls and skull crushers, no problem. Hammer curls tender at first, like the first rep of every set was a little tough, just putting tension on the muscle, like getting that initial tension. But once I started the set, it felt by and large fine. Skull crushers, where I would think I would have the most issue, like I would think if I was having elbow issues, the skull crusher would be a no-go, but again, basically no pain there. So I was actually able to increase the weight from last week. Last week I just did a 10-pound plate on each side of the EZ bar, just because I was kind of testing the water. This week I added a 10 and a 5, so 15 pounds on each side of the EZ bar. Got through all 6 sets of 10, no issues. Chest press finisher, no issues. So I don't know. I think while I was in there this week, I was kind of like looking at what my training schedule looks like for the next couple weeks. And in 2 weeks, I'm moving to a 4-day a week training program. And I think that I'm going to start that next week. I think I'm just going to do next week's workouts. I'll still do the workouts, like I'm still going to do next week's workouts, but instead of like, I'm just going to skip the gym on Wednesday. I'm not going to go to the gym on Wednesdays. I'm going to go back to the old split that I was doing where it was, 4 days a week. I'm going to do Monday, Tuesday, rest, Monday, Tuesday, rest, Thursday, Friday, rest. Um, because we're getting to a point where I am going to start hitting, like in 2 weeks, I'm supposed to hit 425 for a single on squat. And I was looking at that today as my elbow was like throbbing and just wondering how on God's green earth I was going to accomplish that if I continued to lift the way I'm lifting, because it's not going to be a good time for me. So I got to make a change if I want to continue on this program. And I think that given where I'm at in the program, the fact that I'm going to start 4 days a week in 2 weeks anyways, I think that is a better move now than changing up my entire split and trying to split a 5-day gym regimen across 7 or 8 days like I was toying with the idea of doing. So I think I'm just going to start a 4-day a week early next week. So what that looks like going forward is I'm going to, I did run this morning too. I just want to make note of that for future me. Did intervals for 2 miles. Sorry, way off topic. But what the rest of the gym looks like going forward for me the next week is I'm going to continue out this week as normal. I've got deadlifts tomorrow, and then I have bench again on Friday. Friday is kind of my quick, short bench session, which I have not really had an issue with in the last couple of weeks since I started having these elbow issues. Friday's bench session usually goes okay. It's Larson press, and it's usually a little bit lighter weight. Like I'd be surprised if it was over 225. I think it maybe 245. I don't know. I'd have to go look, but it's lighter weight for me. So, and then there's like 4 accessories. So I'm gonna get through the rest of this week since I already went to the gym today, so I can't skip today. So I'm just gonna finish the rest of the week as normal, and then come Monday, we're going to start 4 days a week. So I'm going to do Monday's comp bench, Tuesday's comp squat, Wednesday is going to be interval training like I did this morning, running interval training, and then a rest from the gym. I'm not going to go to the gym on Wednesdays. Thursdays is going to become my secondary bench day like it used to be. And Friday will be my deadlifting day. So moving forward, that's how we're going to play things, because I got to change something. So my body is telling me that something's got to change. Another thing I noticed in the gym too, on that note, is that my left forearm was pretty like swollen, almost like I had a pump, but it was not a pump. I think it was just from the inflammation in my elbow. It was tight, and my right forearm was like normal. I noticed this when I was doing dumbbell incline press. It's like I'm not using my forearms really in that movement, so there's no reason I would have a pump. This is probably just because I'm, got a very, very angry elbow, and so that's what I went with, because it makes the most sense. And so I just think that, all of the evidence is pointing at like my body just screaming at me to stop, and I'm going to listen to it finally. That's part of the game here, dude. Is like this is just part of training. If you do it with any length of time, any respectable length of time, dude, you're going to run into something like this in the future, right? Something is going to start hurting, for whatever reason. I don't think I necessarily did anything wrong to hurt my elbow. I just think that I'm training too much. I think I'm training too frequently. I'm benching too often, combined with squatting, and I'm benching pretty heavy. For me, I'm putting up singles at like 90 and 95%, singles, doubles, triples on Monday, and then I'm putting up singles, doubles, triples of squat at like 90 to 80, 88 to 90% on Tuesday, and then I'm benching again on Wednesday, benching again on Friday. I just think there's too much volume and frequency there. I don't think it's because I have poor form or because bench press is bad for your joints or because anything like that. I think it's just the way that I'm cutting this program out and running it is detrimental to me. So I have to make a change. Again, not because I think bench press or squats are bad for you, just because I think the way I'm doing this program is not optimal, and I've got to make a change here. So it was fine for the first few weeks, 3-4 weeks, but after that, the last couple weeks, I've been really battling this elbow deal, and so I'm gonna just go ahead and make the change because my goal is to hit PRs at the end of this program, and whether or not I hit PRs at the end of this program will kind of dictate how I train moving forward. I might end up doing a meet this time next year. I've been kind of toying with the idea of signing up for a meet in about a year and training towards that if I can hit new PRs at the end of this training program. If I go to the end of this training program and I put up the same weight that I've always put up, there's a high likelihood that I will not compete next year. So we're going to see. We'll see. I would love to do it, but it's got to make sense. So I got to do what I can to keep myself healthy so that I can make that happen. And this is just one step in doing that. It's only a week. I'm not really losing that much. I'm losing 1 day of training. I'm cutting out 1 day of training over the next 10 days. So I'm not even really losing that much, but it's going to help me spread out my rest days a little bit. And I think that my body will really appreciate that. So, yeah, on that note, I'm home now, so I'm going to go inside here and make something to eat. I'm pretty hungry. Might take another Advil, honestly, because my elbow's still a little bit tender. And then, yeah, I got some work to do. So I guess we'll see tomorrow. We got deadlifts. I'm pretty excited about tomorrow. It's a big day for deadlifts. 490 on the bar, 490 pounds on the bar for 2 sets of 1. Similar to last week when I did 473 for 2 sets of 1. This week we're going to do 490 for 2 sets of 1 with like a 30 or 45 second rest. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, should be a fun day. Should be an interesting day. I can't wait to record it and see how it feels tomorrow. So on that note, I'm gonna go inside, rest up, recover well, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. All right. So until then, be safe, be good, and go to the gym.